Spinoff Games! They're inevitable. When you have a successful franchise, you want to make sure you make the best games for them out there. So, how do you keep them relevant in the meantime? Just throw them in some other shit. It'll sell regardless.
There are a lot of video games, representing different series and genres, covering a variety of art styles and mechanics. There is bound to be one that's right for you. Of course, when you find that special game, you want to do everything in your power to waste more of your money on them. Spin-offs are one of those things. They can be a gateway for someone to get introduced to a new game genre, and the Persona series is no different. Persona is a turn-based JRPG game released in 1997 that has you summon these myth-like monsters to fight. You could say it's like Pokemon but for adults, even though we're playing as high school students. In its third entry, 9 years later, it introduced a social link system that can help make you stronger during combat and leveling up, which made it stand out. It was a niche series until the release of both Persona 3 and 4 that it skyrocketed into popularity. Because of this, Atlus, the developers behind the series, wanted to capitalize on it by releasing their own spin-off games, especially with the 5th installment. They published a 3D Warriors game, a tactical RPG, a handheld series, and a dancing rhythm game. They made 3 of them. But there is one Persona spin-off game that utilizes a genre that is a complete curveball to its original. A genre that the series has never done before and may never happen again. Before you say anything, yes, this is a sequel game to Persona 4 Arena, or the Ultimax in Japan. Speaking of, this game in Japan is called the Ultimax Ultra Suplex Hold. What was Atlus thinking when they were putting these words together? Did they took inspiration from, I guess, German suplexing the P4 protag in this art? Suplex City, bitch. This isn't a wrestling game. It's a 2D fighter developed by Arc System Works, the same guys that have done this, and this. It was the first spin-off game / series for Persona, which is also a spin-off series of Shin Megami Tensei, originally Megami Tensei. Before Arena's release, the SMT title was featured in every mainline Persona entry. So this game is part of a spin-off series of a spin-off series of a mainline series that was based on a novel series. I'm not joking, it was originally based off of the Digital Devil Story series of novels. While SMT have other sub-series under their name, like Devil Summoner, Persona is by far their most popular franchise. After the success of Persona 4, Atlus wanted a fighting game for the series, so they reached out to Arc Sys to develop it. It was released on arcade in Japan on March 1st, 2012, and then released on console on January 26th and August 7th in Japan and North America respectively the same year, and in Europe on May 10th, 2013. While Arena was the first spin-off game, I will only focus on its sequel, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, since it's just the first game but with new content and updated gameplay. So, with that out of the way, let's dive into it.
I feel like this is a sin.
Persona was originally PlayStation exclusive when the Arena series was released, so seeing the Xbox logo next to the Persona name was surreal until recently. Booting up the game, it greets you with a stellar opening featuring all your favorite characters and Rise. Now, this might be confusing if this is your first experience with the series, as it's a continuation from the previous entries. I won't be spoiling the major story beats that are from them, but I highly recommend playing both P3 and P4 to get the full context. But if you don't want to, I don't blame you! Our story begins 2 months after the events of Persona 4, and the protagonist for the game, named Yu Naokami, is visiting Inaba for Golden Week, where he spent the entirety of last year with his uncle since his parents worked overseas. He reminisces on him and his friends solving the murder mystery that plagued the town in despair. Now that the case is closed, everyone can relax and not worry about bad stuff going to happen again.
Fight and survive towards the one throne waiting at the end! The P1 Grand Prix, where fierce fights will be fought! The battle begins tonight!
Well, The Midnight Channel is back, and our heroes are targeted this time around. It was first a legend where if you look at a blank TV screen at midnight, your soulmate will appear. However, what was actually shown was who was the next victim during the murder case last year. The thing is, it was no more after it was solved, so now for it to be back raises some questions and concerns. So the next day, Yu, Yosuke, Chie, and Yukiko meet up at Junes to discuss. They mentioned that it has been back for some time since people recognize them from this program. Their suspicions keep rising as their friends Teddy, Kanji, and Rise are missing with no way of contacting them. Naoto unfortunately was busy with a case of her own, so it's up to the OG squad to go into the TV world and find out who's responsible. Unfortunately, they get split up going in, which they never really explained. Out of all the times they went in together, this is the only time something like this happened. Once they come to, they see that their high school is replicated in the TV world. These settings are usually related to the shadow that's causing a stir and their suppressed feelings, which means someone has been captured and is trapped in the school, like what the group has gone through. They first must deal with General Teddy. No, not that one. This one. He has rigged this to be a tournament where people fight one-on-one to become the P1 Grand Prix champion. Yes, the tourney has a name for it, and the fighters are the P4 cast shown on the Midnight Channel. But how and why would they fight, you may ask? Well, the general not only sells car insurance, it has a special power to make people aggressive and deceive one another, almost changing their personality completely. Whoever wins will advance to the next fight while the other is stuck in place. Literally, until it's all over. Oh. Right. They're here too. Let's go back, shall we? Our story begins 2 years after the events of Persona 3, and Aigis has stopped a plane from getting hijacked. One of the passengers happens to be Mitsuru Kirijo, who is the president of the Kirijo Group and founder of the Shadow Operatives, who are a specialized force in taking supernatural cases. Unfortunately, the cargo that was in the plane was gone during the hijack. The cargo in question contains the 5th generation anti-shadow suppression weapon, Labyrinth. She is an older model of Aigis, who is the 7th generation. Yes, Aigis is a robot. No, I will not elaborate. In tracking it down, they arrive at Yaso Inaba in a junkyard with a conveniently big-ass TV. They also meet up with their friend and another member of the operatives, Akihiko Sanada. The three enter the TV to find Labyrinth and retrieve her. Following behind them was Naoto, who happens to be on the case regarding the Kirijo group. The law enforcement isn't exactly fond of the Shadow Operatives, so they sent her out to find out what's going on. The story of Arena is played out by which character you select, since it was originally on arcades. Whichever character you choose, you will run into this character who calls herself the Student Council President. She is very stoic and takes her role very seriously. Once you reach the announcement room, you'll meet up with General Teddy to confront him. Eventually, he'll deform into a robot that has a striking resemblance to Miss President. That's right, she is Labyrinth, the weapon who the Shadow Operatives are looking for and whose shadow created the school and orchestrated the P1 Grand Prix. After the reveal, the game will lock you out of completing the character's story until you unlock and complete Labyrinth's story by playing through at least 2 P4 characters and 1 P3 character. How her story starts is from her inception, being created and experimented on by the Kirijo group 10 years before the events of P3. I won't go into detail, but it is very tragic and explains why she visions a high school, why she resents friendship, typical anime bullcrap.
But make sure you have one of these. Trust me, you're gonna need them.
After fighting Labyrinth's shadow, she gets some words of encouragement from the P4 cast that facing oneself is tough and you need to accept it and find people that will understand you. She does just that and acquires her own persona. The P3 cast were originally gonna bring her in and shut her off again, but they decided against it as it would be cruel to do so to someone who has a heart. Now that the ordeal is over, the case is closed except the true culprit who kidnapped Labyrinth, put her into the TV, and controlled her for a time right before everyone got out of the world is still out there. Mitsuru ensures the P4 cast to not go after the culprit and leave it to her group. But of course, they won't do that. It's called Persona 4 Arena, not Persona 3 Arena. I know the story is mostly focused on the selected character's perspective, but I don't like that it creates inconsistencies with how they got to where they are based on who you picked. For example, if you select Yu, he goes up against Yosuke in his first match, who provokes him by mentioning that Nanako, who is his uncle's daughter, is inside the TV world. After the fight, Yosuke was upset at Yu for making fun of him in his Special Nurses magazines. Seems like the hub was banned in Inaba. But if you select Yosuke, he fights Yu as his final challenger and gets provoked thanks to his sister complex with Nanako. Afterwards, Yu says that Yosuke said that he wasn't his partner. I'm guessing they had different writers tackle different characters and having their story being the focus. Nothing wrong with that, but when you're going through every character one after another, it does get annoying after playing a few. With Ultimax's story mode, it is separated by the P3 and P4 cast, so it flows easier. Notice how I said easier, not consistent. This starts with Mitsuru, Aigis Agihiko, and their analyzer, Fuka Yamagishi, learning about the whereabouts of the culprit until their limo gets hijacked and drives off the cliff for them to get off guard and captured. During this, the investigation team discuss the issue at hand and what to do about the immediate threat. Night falls and the Midnight Channel airs once again, only this time General Teddy is back and there's a new tournament this time around, the P1 Climax. This time it'll take place in the real world. What follows is a very familiar looking tower that has trapped the Shadow Operatives where Yasogami High School resides. Now it's up to the P4 game to stop this threat. Thankfully, they're not alone. These members only appear in emergencies like this who happen to be friends that they met through high school. We have Junpei Iori, a Little League coach who aspires to be a professional ball player, Yukari Takaba, who becomes a Power Ranger essentially, and Ken Amada with the glow up! Damn, puberty hit him like a gunshot. Oh, and let's not forget our best boy, Koromaru. Yes, the dog can use a persona. On their way to the tower, they go up against shadows of themselves for this tournament. The catch is, they would be trapped in the ring and the only way to get out is to win the match. However, there seems to be a devious tactic going on as afterwards, the shadow disembodies itself and this ray of light pops up, making the fighters exhausted, almost being torn apart. This leads to some questions. What does the ray of light mean? Why is this happening in the first place? And most importantly, who was responsible for all of this?
Yeah, you're gonna believe in your friends and be the winners of the P1 Climax, is that right? Playing friends here? That's frickin' lame. My name's Sho Minazuki, and you guys are in my world now.
This f***ing brat is the cause of all this? Meet Sho Minazuki. He's not only the one causing the destruction of the world, but the one who kidnapped Labyrinth from the previous game. His upbringing was that he was a part of an experiment through the Kirito group some time ago. They wanted to create Persona users through experimental means. As you can imagine, it was a living hell, and so he wants to rid the entire world who treated him like a weapon. I do like his design and attitude being a bit contradictory to our heroes. He has a split personality where his other self is calmer, collected, and more powerful, being able to freeze people in place. He won't finish them as he must go to the top of the tower to fulfill their wish, whatever that means. After some story beats and rescuing people, a horde of shadows pop up all over the city and everyone plans on what to do against them, and that Yu Narukami will head to the top to confront Sho. Now this happens if you play through the P4 side. If you play through the P3, Labyrinth is the one who confronts Sho, and honestly, I much prefer her doing it. While Yu understands what it's like being alone with moving to Inaba and having to move constantly, Labyrinth understands being alone while having to fight for their survival. Both have suffered and grown to hate humans for their time spent with the Kirito group, but she has seen firsthand there are kind people in the world thanks to both casts accepting her for who she is. Despite being ridiculed and treated like a tool, if you let yourself grow bonds with others, they can make you stronger. Having that connection makes their interaction more emotional. The P3 side is so much better than P4 in my opinion, mostly because they have more of a connection for the plot and the world around them. Seeing them reunited after 2 years is so heartwarming. The fact that Junpei slept on the train only to coincidentally be in Inaba where shit is going down is hilarious and on character. That might not sound fair to the P4 cast because they have some good story elements, but it boils down to some shenanigans and plots that I feel nothing about. And it sucks since they are the headliners. Yukiko and Teddy trying to figure out who's the real kanji? Okay. Reisei given a chance to fight? I guess. As a Reisei fan, I feel nothing towards this. I get that she feels incompetent because she's more of a navigator for the team, but I honestly think they just wanted to add another character slot. Why not add Fuka while you're at it? It gets better in the second half, but they are overshadowed because of the story beats I mentioned before. Persona is a series that is all about bonds and how much they can impact your life, and Arena Ultimax is no exception. Introducing new characters who have no one in their life only to find people that can relate to them. Getting them to understand that there are people who will accept them for who they are and will help overcome their hardships, just like what both casts went through in their games. Unfortunately, not everyone agrees with that notion. Remember General Teddy, who was Labyrinth's shadow? He is actually Hino Kagasuchi, a literal god who was Sho's other personality wanting to grant his wish to destroy all humans and create a new world for him. He was gathering persona fragments that was the light that was forming after fights from the cast to awaken his true form. Of course, power of friendship prevails and God is defeated. Haven't done this song and dance before. There is a true ending once you go through P4 and P3 and go back to right before the final boss as you. He fights Sho one more time, this time not as enemies, but as rivals who understand one another. Afterwards, we get this party scene with all the characters enjoying themselves and having a good time. Akihiko wearing Yukari's helmet, Ken getting hit on by the P4 girls, and Yosuke trying to hit on Mitsuru only to be interrupted by Junpei saying how tough she is. God, I love these characters.
I'm sure Shokun will be okay. He might have lived all alone, without anyone to talk to, but we're there for him now.
Yeah, Sho's journey is just getting started. We can change as much as we want by learning from other people.
You got that right.
Overall, the story is solid and does a great job with being a continuation of both games it took from. But it does have some problems. The presentation is a bunch of doohickey. I get that it has visual novel elements in the series, but in the actual games, the 3D models are there to help portray the scenes and the portraits are there to show facial expressions. Cause have you seen the PS2's graphics? Look at them, they're so happy to be. Here, it's just the portraits. They do show some art and cutscenes from time to time, but it's so boring most of the time. And the left flaps are so funny. It's almost like the same speed as firing an SMG. My biggest gripe is the story to game ratio, ridiculously awful. In the original games, it does get flagged for having long intros, but as you play more, it has a good balance from the story cutscenes to what you can do later on in the game. Level up in the dungeons, do tasks to increase your social stats, or hang out with social links to help level up your personas. Here, you get a bunch of dialogue with only 1 round fights, and that's it. I wouldn't be bothered if it was best of 3, but it's just 1 round, 99-second fight, and you just sit through the scenes for a while until the next one. You don't even have to play as there's an auto button, making it so that you don't have to play the game at all.
I'm a gamer!
It is convenient for those who don't know jack about fighting games, but I wish there was more fights to play in the story mode. A shame, really, because the gameplay is really fun. How it works is a 1v1 match trying to deplete your opponent's health bar to 0. You have a weak and strong standard attacks along with weak and strong persona attacks for combos and such. There are also grabs, furias, and invasion attacks that differ depending on who you're using as another attack or counter. Doing a quarter circle with these will amp up the powered up move with a cost of 25 SP. Do a quarter circle twice and you'll perform a super attack that costs 50 SP. What's really cool is that ArcSys uses the mechanics from the actual games and incorporated them into this one. It was their first outing making a fighting game based on a beloved franchise, and they did an excellent job. The rush moves an all-out attack that you can send your opponent to the other side of the map or up in the air. You can use one more to keep the combo going with a cost of 50 SP. Burst lets you get out of a combo or use a free one move. Another mechanic is when you use a persona to attack and your opponent gets a hit on you, you'll see a card depleted at the bottom of your health bar. Losing all the cards will cause a persona break and you can't use your persona attacks until it's full. When your health reaches below a certain point, you'll be in a buff state where your attack and defense increase and can soar up to 150 SP. If you're in that state with full SP and it's a final round, press down 3 times and all buttons to perform an ultimate move that insta-kills if successful. Thing is, it's only available for the normal type characters. If you perform a burst as a shadow type, their SP depletes over time, but they can use SP moves without the meter cost. Also, you can hit ailments depending on which character you use. You and Kanji can shock their enemies with their electric attacks, Mitsuru can freeze with her ice, Yosuke can use Tentra Fu to confuse, etc. It's insane the number of references the fighting game mechanics implemented. After the acclaim of the Arena series, Atlus wanted to try other genres and make the next mainline game. It was forgotten for about a decade until a re-release in 2022, but then it just faded into obscurity, mainly because they like to use the latest entry on anything and everything. This game was their biggest announcement for their 25th anniversary, second only to the Royal soundtrack being released on Spotify. At least we got the full version of Colors Flying High. Seriously, that anniversary celebration was so weak. It's a bummer because this is my favorite Persona Spinoff game. It has a good story, but is slow paced. The gameplay is awesome with implementing mechanics from past games, and having both cast members interact here is the fan service that gets me going. I hope in the future we'll get another Arena game that has given the same love and attention to the series' history, but this time with the Phantom Thieves. Imagine the matchup possibilities! Makoto versus Chie, Junpei versus Ryuji, Virgin vs. Chad! Now that these games are multi-platform with P3 having a remake, it might be a good time for these characters to come back to the genre once more. Maybe show those damn kids that these peeps still have what it takes.
So, P3 Prototype DLC when?